ECW ran, Friday, Saturday. Sometimes you'd get a Thursday and a Sunday in there. But Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I was hanging out with Heyman.
There you go.
In between the shows. So all the stuff that happened in between television tapings, I was a part of. And then on weekends, I would go to the local tapings and I'd do production and what we called covert operations.
Got you. So it was like him and Charlie and you guys. But was Paul basically married to that building? He literally would leave the shows on the weekends and be that much of a workaholic. Like there was almost no playtime.
He didn't sleep.
Yeah.
He was one of those dudes that would get like 3 hours or 4 hours sleep and wake up wired, ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay? When they would edit the show, Ron and Charlie would do 8-hour shifts each, and Heyman would do 36 hours straight.
I know. I find that amazing to have the attention span. It's just kind of how you just said about yourself, about when you record music and then you start, you need to rest your ears. You got to put it away, because if you don't have a few days in between, you might not hear it right when you're mixing it.
Heyman used to start editing the shows in his mind.
Yes.
As we were driving back to New York after a show.
I understand that, being a filmmaker. I get that. But yeah.
Any show that was in driving distance, I was either in the passenger seat or the back seat. Either Paul drove or Haz, the arms master that we called Craig Hasbrook. He would usually rent a car, and it would be me, him, and Heyman going to whatever local show it was. He would put the show together for that night in the car on the way to the show. After the show, he had all the matches. He didn't write shit down during the show, but he'd remember things, and he would be structuring next week's television in the car on the way home. He would give Ron and Charlie Sunday off, and I think Monday morning they would start the editing process that would go to Tuesday, sometimes into Wednesday.
Crazy. I mean, it's amazing what the equipment he had to do with the editing back then compared to what you could do now. Like it wouldn't have been, he could have probably done it from his house. It's just amazing, the equipment, but he had to do what he had to do. What a workaholic. And you're that close to him. I mean, I realize you probably weren't exactly going through the books and all that, because that's probably wasn't your department, but that last year when the writing was on the wall, I mean, did you really think it was going to end? Did you see more of it? Yeah, neither did I.
No, he even had the Living Dangerously pay-per-view that never happened, that was supposed to relaunch the company. He had in mind what he wanted to do. Now I remember him saying he was going to get Rhino back from WWF to put the belt on Van Dam, who hadn't signed with WWF. Okay.
So you basically saying, because Living Dangerously was always March, so the company was done in January, and 2 months later he was trying to kick it? Or are you talking about a year and 2 months later?
No, 2 months. January 12th or whatever it was in Pine
13th was the last show, yeah.
Okay. In his mind, he was still trying to get a TV deal, and he had every intention of doing the Living Dangerously pay-per-view to relaunch the company. Now,
okay, so was he already signed with Vince though by then? Was he technically? Yeah. Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. Here, a series of events happened. Jerry Lawler's wife got fired.
Yeah, Cat. Yeah, or Kitty or whatever her name was. Yeah.
So Jerry Lawler quit.
Yes.
Vince or Stephanie or whoever called Paul to fill in on commentary. And if you remember those first few weeks, he was wearing the ECW hat and the ECW laminates.
It's like it wasn't over. Yeah. Gotcha.
Talking about ECW. But then I think they did the Godfather thing, and they made him an offer he couldn't refuse. The company was like $6 million in debt. So he was hoping to relaunch ECW with, I think, MTV and have Shane McMahon involved. He had all these grandiose plans, But, you know, one thing led to another, and he ended up replacing Jim Ross.
Yeah.
No, he ended up replacing Jerry Lawler, doing commentary with Jim Ross. But like I said, look at that first month. He's got the ECW hat, the laminate. He's not being Paul Heyman. He's Paulie Dangerously, or, you know, he's the ECW.
So I totally get what you're saying. To me, that's when I thought it was truly over. Because even when they said it was folded, I was like, I see Paul somewhere else, and then it leaked. They're like, he's gonna be on Raw tonight, and I like really came out. I was like, wow, it's really freaking over. But he did come with not the whole locker room, of course, but 20% of the locker room signed. So were you basically saying, even though they were signed, it was kind of like maybe a side deal of like Paul's going to get his guys back for that pay-per-view if it was to go down, or do you think he was going to start fresh with like newer people?
Newer people, and I think only borrowing Rhino.
Okay.
To put the belt on Rob, and it was going to probably involve some WWF guy that Rhino was feuding with, screwing him, so that basically how Rob won the belt would have been like a screw job with outside interference or some shit like that. I forget, but there were some indie guys that had been mentioned. I remember Loki's name.
Probably CM Punk even. Yeah, probably even CM Punk for that on that time.
Too early for CM Punk.
Too early? Okay.
I remember Mikey Whipwreck's students, the SAT in red, had been mentioned. And I might be mistaken, but I do believe they said the Hit Squad, who was really big in Jersey All Pro, to go up against York and Matthews. So he would have kept like Van Dam and whoever wasn't signed.
Yeah, could just carry over. Yeah.
There was still a lot of talent. There was still C.W. Anderson, Simon Diamond, Chris Hamrick, Easy Money, Julio De Niro was still there. Tajiri had signed, but Super Crazy was available. I believe Guido was still available. So there was enough to relaunch the company. But, then a series of events made it inevitable that the company was not going to come back.